Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Welcome everybody back to, I think it's the first NWA Spotlight on the channel. Fee will correct me if I'm wrong soon, but I'm now calling you Fee PN because you have a VPN to watch Power. Just before we start, before we introduce our guest who's laughing a bit at that, we do have to send well wishes to El Capitan Leighton Buzzard on Sunday. For those of you that don't know, he was wrestling for the British Heavyweight Championship against Michael Oku at Revolution Pro Wrestling. I was saying to Fee before he come on air, he just fell on basically just fell on trying to do a move. I thought he was knocked out because he walked they was getting carried past me with the the ambulance crew. He just looked out of it. I thought he was knocked out. He tried to come in for the Revolution Rumble straight after, and they didn't allow him to. But he's just had the prognosis today, and he's torn both ACL and MCL in his knee, looking at between 9 and 12 months out. So unfortunately, that's big bad news for El Capitan, and we wish him very, very well indeed. Now, more on to more positive things and better things. It's NWA Spotlight, which first things first, like I said, she's there on my left, VPN, Fiona, you're here. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm hoping for summer soon.
It's bloody freezing up here.
Rain. We've got rain. If we don't have rain, we have wind. If we don't have wind, we have rain. That's the general consensus at the moment. But our guest, it looks sunny and bright where he is. He is a voice of the NWA. He wears many hats on Power. It is Mr. Kyle Davis. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. That's right. Executive operations. I do ring announcing. I do interviews. I'm just handsome sometimes. If you like a man who doesn't have hair on the top of his head but does on his face, you, sir, could be my cousin. Adam Cousins there because you also are rocking the same hairstyle. I am nothing wrong with that. We wear it well, my friend. I'm in Florida, the U.S. It is sunny. It is 87 degrees today. So when you keep on saying I can't wait for summer to get here, I mean, summer's been here for me for the most part on that. It's the sun's out, joyful. We just announced NWA 76 coming from the former ECW Arena, 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The National Wrestling Alliance, of course, is on the CW app, CWTV.com. If you can make it happen, VPN has the ability to make that happen now. Great nickname. Big fan. Liking it a lot. Be here. Let's what do you want to talk about? Huge events, all things going. Or we can just, talk about people getting hurt and things like that, because as they say, this is not ballet. Accidents do happen. As a guy with one bum knee, I could tell you surgery is probably the answer. Get that thing fixed. You got your whole life ahead of you. You want to enjoy that life and not hobble around like a weirdo.
Yeah, exactly. He is having surgery as well. So again, we wish you well when that surgery happens. I did say to Carl before we come on here that the point of having him on was for him to do a lot of talking. And Fee, you remember the second interview we had with Eric Bischoff, and Dave asked a question, and it took him about 15 minutes to get the question. I promise it's not going to be that long, but I wanted to discuss NWA's growth and how I envisage it, and I'm going to use an analogy from a book that I was reading. And yes, I do read. Yes, I'm not just
proud of you.
A bit like Carl, I'm not just a pretty face, but I do read. But anyway, first things first, it's important to know for anyone that doesn't know that obviously Billy doesn't have the budget of a WWE or an AEW. So if they spend $5 million on something, and they have to rectify it by spending $10 million to make $40 million down the line, they will class that as a success. I don't mean that. I mean on how Billy does the NWA and has taken it from where it was to via YouTube to now the CW. And I'm going to use an analogy. So just humor me for a minute. So this goes back to, and this is where I said it's going to be left field. In 2002, so Dave Brailsford took over the British cycling team in 2002. And before that, they were nowhere near the podium finish. They couldn't do it. They were nowhere. Literally nowhere. Looking for where the hell are you going with this?
I don't know where you're going with this.
But what he said,
I'm here for it.
But what he done, he said that he gambled, and basically, if he broke down every department or everything that they could think of that goes into competing on a bike and basically improving that by 1% every year or so, they would achieve a significant increase in performance. Fast forward to 2008. and they won 8 out of 10 gold medals at the Olympic Games. Now, I see that as Billy every year breaking down the NWA, making little improvements. The most recent one, Fee, for example, was the production, which we'll talk about. And in the end, right now, maybe he set himself a target to say, we want to get a streaming deal, we want to get onto TV. He's done that by making those improvements over the last many years that he's been doing Power. Kyle, over to you. What is that a good analogy, or am I just talking crap?
No, I understand completely what you're saying. You used a cycling plan. I would have never used that because I'm not a bicyclist, but that's okay. What you're talking about is incremental improvement. It's the idea of when you go to the gym and you put in the reps. This week you can lift X amount. If you just incrementally add that, maybe add one more rep, and next week you'll get a little bit more and a little bit more. And as the time goes on, one day you'll wake up and you say, like, I have muscles and I have strength and I have functional things. I agree with you entirely on that. The key is that you don't see results overnight in anything in life. You have to put in the effort and everything like that. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be times where you make a move and initially it doesn't get the immediate successful results that people think that it would have gotten. But in time, those things you build upon. So I agree with you entirely. I'll be honest with you. I mean, obviously, when I stepped aboard the National Wrestling Alliance, it has now been, can't believe this, it's been over 5 years since I've been involved with this brand again. Long story short, once upon a time in the previous existence of the National Wrestling Alliance, before the Lightning One Billy Corgan era, as it's called, I was a professional wrestler. I worked for Ring of Honor. I was trained by Bryan Danielson. I was a much better talker than I was an athlete. But at one point, I was working for the National Wrestling Alliance in a certain part of the United States in the, as I joke about the Dark Ages. I was wrestling. Yes.
Interject here? Is this in your internet millionaire and eye candy days?
Yes, it was. I still have, I don't know if you can see it right there, but it does say eye candy on my forearm there. That used to be right on the groin of my wrestling gear that was pink and purple, and I had hair. It's quite handsome at the time, but now I'm stronger and more mature. I'm a man that I always wanted to be and that I never thought I could be, instead of a boy trying to be an obnoxious prick that I never should have been. Regardless, it's one of those deals that going from that era and seeing what it was and then being welcomed aboard in a different aspect of my life, and then working my way up through the company to see where we are today, knowing where it was, not on the radar, barely existing, no exposure, no one talking about it. It's something that it keeps me very grounded, and I think it keeps all of us grounded that had any background with the company before Billy was involved. So yes, we're not WWE. We don't have millions and millions and millions of dollars. We don't have a corporate backer. We have none of that. We have a rock star who's passionate about professional wrestling, who literally loves professional wrestling and who decided that I want to be involved in that. I want to help create. I want to help build. I want to help extend the thing that I grew up on. He grew up in Chicago. He watched this programming when he was a child. And, I'm a big proponent. There were a lot of people, when you're growing up and you find something that connects with you, it tends to stick with you for your life. Comic books was my thing. Professional wrestling was. It was a way of looking in the mirror and saying, I wish I was somebody else. And then seeing characters, reading about people, seeing athletes on my screen where I went, oh, I could be that if I tried hard enough, or I could do that. So Billy is now in the position where he can help build people and affect a younger generation in a way, not just through music, but through another form of entertainment. And that's the athletic competition, the professional wrestling.
Absolutely. And it's been great. Fee, you've watched NWA since I can remember, since I've known you. You've always watched. You're the one that got me back in, well, not me back into it, me realizing that there was such thing as at the NWA. And I assumed way back when that was it was finished, and you started posting on socials about it. What have you seen over the last sort of many, many years that you've watched it that keeps you watching it week in, week out?
One of the real basic things for me is the time scale of it, in terms of, I don't have 3 hours to sit down and watch a show. I don't. And I like the length of programming, 45 minutes, an hour. It's perfect for me. And because there's maybe 3 or 4 matches in that 1 hour, the action's constant. It just keeps flowing. It keeps going. And there's not a lot of big segments or vignettes or all of that sort of thing. It's just boom, 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 boom. And for me, that was one of the things that really grabbed my attention. When I can spare an hour, I cannot spare 3 hours to watch a show.
I like that, and I understand that, because bite-sized pieces, it does take a lot of time commitment. sometimes I'll go to sit down and watch something. I said, I just know that this is going to take me X amount of time. And I look at my watch and I say, I can't do that right now.
Yeah.
So I miss out on a lot of entertainment and other things like that. So it's amazing hearing because you don't hear about that a lot. You don't hear a lot of people say, I like it because it gives me the right portion size that I need for my entertainment value.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. And I'm going to push that when I hear from other
Yeah,
people
no,
and
and
say,
I've
hey, so thank you. I'm stealing that.
no, that's absolutely fine. And I've always said that because people ask me quite a lot. The NWA is not huge over here. There are people that watch it. It's not huge, but folk will say to me, why do you watch it? And that is quite often my response is that obviously I have friends that have come through it that I worked with on the indies over here. Tom, for example, Nick when he was there and things. So I worked in the UK with them. So and that was another reason I was like, these are people I know. I want to support them. I want to see what they're doing as well. So that was another reason. But the big one for me was the time scale for the actual shows. It's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I started watching it, what I got there was that I love that old school vibe with the sort of the sort of in twist where it's old school vibe, but it's brought back into the era that we're in. So you had like Carl, what the kind of like an old podium like it used to be, and
Yes, I do miss the podium. It hid it
I
when I'm
miss the
not eating
podium.
properly. I could hide my stomach. So I miss those days, but it is what it is. One day maybe I'll get my podium back.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned the roster. I wanted to talk about that because what I love about the NWA roster is you've got, and we've said this before with a couple of people we've had on. I mean, you've got like Kenzie Page, who's like a ring general, or like 20 odd years old that she is, and she learned a lot. She beat Camille, and she's having a title. But then you've got like a mixture of you've got the young ones, and then you've got like the I always like the EC3s that's kind of maybe like not in a being disrespectful to him, like a chip on his shoulder, like he's got something to prove because of stuff that happened, and you've got that. Then you've got the Latimers that have been there, but again haven't maybe grasped that.
Latimer is the guy I'd say has a chip on his shoulder. I think the sky's the limit for him. He now is kind of an island unto himself, the National Wrestling Alliance. He's in the national the national title tournament right now. And of course, once you get that natty, after 100 days, you can cash it in for a world title shot.
He
So I'm
needs
thinking
that £10 of gold. He needs that belt. I am praying for the day I see Tom with that round his middle, honestly.
Preaching to the choir. Tom is one of my favorite human beings alive. Not just to talk to, not just to be around, but also I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Very easy on the eyes. Just putting that out there. And who doesn't want to be hanging out with somebody that you get along with, and also that you're like, who better standing next to this guy? It's got to wear off on me, right?
Definitely. So, Fee, I got to let you ask a question because I'm not going to talk. This is for you as well.
I know, this is a baby. No, I'm like, so you've got all the pay-per-views. This is what I'm quite intrigued about. You've got all these, not pay-per-views, your premium or signature live events, I should say.
Yes.
It's a mouthful to get round. I'm still trying to get used to it. So you've got
it's
hard times. You've got hard times that is airing soon. You've got the Crockett Cup coming up. You've got NWA 76, and you've also announced Looks That Kill away in December back in Dothan. As a fan, I love a pay-per-view. I love the big feel of an event. It feels big. It feels special. And obviously at the moment they've been cut into smaller episodes. What's your kind of take on that? And is the reasoning behind it purely a broadcasting issue or what? Like, I'm intrigued.
There's a whole number of ways to take a look at it. Currently, one of the biggest things is that we did have a provider that we had licensing with going on where we could stream power and we had the pay-per-views and everything like that. And that deal ran out. And in the meantime, when we were dealing with that, the CW deal was starting. So really what you're looking at is a compromise of sorts right now. Instead of holding out and not doing any of these events while things were worked out with CW and everything else, we decided, well, we don't want to hold back on them. We just have to change the way we're doing them for the time being. Now, does that mean that forever and a day there will no longer be pay-per-views? I'm not saying that. Everything is always constantly in flux like that. So we still have the Crockett Cup. We still have Hard Times. We have NWA 76 coming up. Instead of having these be a live event with the cost that goes along with that production, we're doing them as tapings. So you could still be there live and in person. You could still enjoy the entire vibe of it in person and live. It's just on TV, it will get broken up for as like special presentations. And I know you love pay-per-views, and there is something about seeing something live in the moment. But for the time being, unfortunately for yourself, the people that feel that way, unfortunately for those that don't feel that way and just want to see it one way, shape, or form or the other, you can watch that as part of NWA Power programming in the coming months. And again, I can't say this is permanent. This is who knows? Life is constantly changing. I remember once upon a time, if you told me you're going to be streaming, I'd be like, streaming, but is that on the cable thing? And now everything is streaming. So as me being an old man at this point, I now am well enough aware that the things that I've been like, I don't get that. Later on, I went, oh, that's the only way this is done now.
Yeah.
We'll see. Time will tell. I'm sorry that it bothers you, though. I want you happy. You know I want you happy.
It just means I have to buy 4 nights worth of snacks instead of one. That's half the joy of it. You go and get their snacks in for the pay-per-view because it doesn't start till 1 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't finish till 4 or 5 a.m. So it's a big night out for us.
I do see your tweets and everything and your social media where it's like your feet up, there's a TV, and you're just like, it's so late at night, but I'm going to go through this.
Yeah.
What's your go-to snack?
I normally have probably like chips and dip. So like
Just a regular
Doritos
salted chip, nothing.
No, I like a little cool blue one or a little spicy one, some garlic mayo or whatever with it. We garlic mayo dip. There's always chocolate. Sometimes
The thing I
there's
just
pizza.
popped for is that there's always going to be a regional variant. Obviously, 2 different countries. So when you say cool blue, all I can think of is maybe that's a ranch. I don't know. That could be its own entity.
Cool blue Doritos are like a kind of, are they? What flavor are they? I don't even
They're
know
a
what
little
flavor.
tangy. They're a little tangy.
Yeah, a little tangy, little cheesy, little
They're
tangy.
ranch.
So,
They're ranch.
yeah.
I got them over here. The cool ranch. But that's why I was like, oh, this is great. I love international snacks. It was my favorite part of us touring Australia. Joe Gelly, my business colleague and also my broadcast partner. We were in Australia for 3 weeks last year with the Smashing Pumpkins doing some wrestling throughout the entire country there. And everywhere we went, I'd just be like, I need to try a new snack. Yeah. Gas stations, anywhere else. I was like, what's this alcohol? What's this, that? Oh, it's the best part of traveling.
That was me 2 weeks ago back in Texas. I'm like, I'll have this, I'll have this, I'll have this.
You were so close because coming up on May 18th, it's the Crockett Cup, the annual tradition, the tag team tradition.
Never
and
say
who knows
never.
what's going to happen.
Never say never. Your girl's hustling our side job here, doing her best.
Well, we hope to see you there. And if not, you could always just see us on CW now that you got that VPN. And again, that's another point of contention. CW, it's not available internationally. I am sorry. That's the deal that was made with us, and we bit. So we'll find out what happens down the road.
I promised Adam I would not give you a hard time tonight.
It's just like everything else. Best of intentions sometimes have disappointments that go along with it. And the international aspect of NWA programming right now is something that we do need to remedy. And I do not have the solution right here and there, because otherwise I would have fixed that thing right in the moment of time. What's the phone's going off? Sorry, guys. I'm also working while I'm getting that. Hey, Tom Latimer just sent me a text message.
Ooh, hi, Tom.
We were just talking about him there. I don't know what he just said. I'll watch this. It just says, can I tweet this? I'm kind of concerned what it is.
We'll try and have a look at the while we're on here. Kyle, does the roster really surprise you in terms of, we just sort of mentioned Kenzie Page, 20 years old. She's like a ring general. She's a champion. Do you sometimes sit there through Power and think like, my God, just the quality of the roster that you've got?
I always try to instill in the roster the younger generation of this as well. When I came in through professional wrestling, I started with a company called Ring of Honor, which had a large amount of individuals that now are going to go down as the next generation of Hall of Famers. Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, who may or may not have been El Generico, who's to say, Bryan Danielson, Christopher Daniels, Homicide, Samoa Joe, like the list goes on and on and on and on. Claudio Castagnoli. These were all people that I got to be around all day long throughout my wrestling career. And now I look, and these individuals are the main eventers of the 2 biggest companies in the world. Yeah. And in the moment, if you had said, is so-and-so going to be a millionaire? I'd be like, I hope so, but that seems a little absurd. And now I can tell you, yeah, a lot of those people are. And having that hindsight being 2020, being with this roster, and as I'm looking at above my desk here, I have a photo of all of us, the last roster from ROH on HDNet. The amount of individuals that are in this photo now that fans today would be like, wait, you all work together? All these people were in one place at one time? That's the same feeling I get with the National Wrestling Alliance. I am aware, and I want to make sure that everybody that works with us that's younger is aware that take a moment, appreciate this. You all are going to have very bright careers going throughout all the world in professional wrestling. And it's very easy in the moment to not think about that and not appreciate it, because at some point in time, a decade from now, you're going to look back and be like, wow,
Yeah.
we all shared that. We were all there. We learned together. We grew together. We had these moments. We had these experiences. So yes, I'm constantly look at this roster and also sometimes get very upset. You talked about Kenzie Page. Her sister Kylie just joined the company a little over a year ago. And obviously, you know, being somebody who runs a company, I have to make sure that people, as far as age go and other things like that, are of the right thing to be involved in our product and a working aspect of it because of where we live in the United States. And I was like, I hate to even ask, but I just need an ID just so I have it, so I know for a fact that you're not like 16 trying to wrestle. She's over 18, but not by much. And I remember looking at it, and this is I don't know how this goes with the international audience, but Joe Galley and I both looked at each other and go, she wasn't even alive during 9/11.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel so old. And Joe goes, please walk away. Please walk away. I feel very old right now. So like
We getting
I
old,
never
Kyle.
realized that I was old. Yeah, and it's I don't feel it. I don't think I look it. And yet when I'm talking to individuals, all I could think back is like, if I knew what I knew now, 20, I would be unstoppable. And to think that I started late in professional wrestling, I started when I was 27. And here we are. We have wrestlers that started when they were children, or now Colby Carino has literally been wrestling since he was like 12.
Yeah.
Kenzie Page has been wrestling since before she was of legal age. You have all these people that are learning skills, that are putting the hours in there, that are working through and just becoming better and better and better. And Kenzie, it took her 3 years to go from an individual that is unrecognizable from skill level to appearance level to personality level to experience level to now where she is the NWA World's Women's Champion with her own group, her own everything. It makes me so happy because I want everyone that works with me who maybe is still getting all of that and together and figuring it out to know that it's a safe place to learn, to grow. And also they're surrounded by individuals that have been throughout the world in this trade. You know, we've had Medusa, we've had Raven, we've had Homicide as an agent. Dr. Tom Pritchard is one of our agents for the National Wrestling Alliance. He trained The Rock, he trained Kurt Angle, he trained Edge. He was the individual that at that height of WWE, when they said, we have somebody that we think might be something, let's send him to Dr. Tom to see if he thinks they do too. He's our guy now backstage. He helped train Thrillbilly Silas Mason, the Page sisters. The list goes on and on. I am surrounded every day in the National Wrestling Alliance with people where I go, I never want to forget how interesting and cool this is and how much I'm starstruck at a time. I think you could see it if I move my head. The very top corner, there was a NWA World Heavyweight Championship replica. And that is signed by every champion that I get to work with that was a world champion. And the amount of people that have been on that, from Adam Pearce to Ric Flair, it just goes on and on. And so this is a long-winded way of answering your question. Yes, every day I am reminded that I am looking at the stars of tomorrow, and I know that they are the stars of tomorrow because I once upon a time was surrounded by people that I didn't realize were going to be the stars of tomorrow.
Indeed. Fee, I want to ask you now, who is your favorite? I know you mentioned Latimer and people like that, but if you could reel off the top 3 of your favorite NWA wrestlers, who they're going to be?
Oh, put me on the spot. Now I'm going to upset.
Well, you did leave me in the lurch for 2 weeks, having to do power while you were gallivanting.
Okay, so in no particular order, I have to say Kenzie. I have watched her from when she started and came through I've watched her evolve into just an incredible athlete now. So absolutely Kenzie without a shadow of a doubt. Who else? I've always been a Trevor fan. I love Trevor. I loved Trevor back in his WWE days. I loved him when he had the world's heavyweight championship. I'm really enjoying his work with Mike at the moment as a tag team. The match this week with Eric Smalls against the Spectaculars was just so much fun to watch. And then my third, I'm going to say Tom, purely because I've known Tom for a long time. I work with Tom over here. I think he's phenomenally talented. I think he's long overdue. He's long overdue that strap.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'm going to have two extra names that I think are dark horses, but I want to see championships around them maybe in the future. And they actually fought on Power this week, and I need to get your both opinion on it. Mo Jabari, Joe Alonzo.
Interesting. I like that. Joe Alonzo, he calls himself Mr. NWA, one of the most obnoxious human beings I've ever met. The only
One of the
person that might
best
be more
promo guys,
obnoxious-
though.
Terry
One of the
Morton.
best promos. I love his
Terry
promos.
Morton may be more obnoxious. I don't know. But either way,
Ooh.
Joe Alonzo literally knocked on my hotel room one door and just slapped me and then ran away one night.
I
And
love that.
I had no idea what was going on. And then I saw him put together a video package and I was like, oh, it was because I upset him in some way, shape, or form like that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, there's so many people on the NWA roster that I'm a huge fan of. I think Alex Taylor doesn't get enough credit for how much he's grown as a character and a performer and as an athlete. Of course, Tom Latimer, as you said, can't go wrong with that. Kenzie Page, another talent that has grown beyond her years. And then there's other people like Mecha Wolf, who constantly entertains me, both backstage and in front of the stage. Really, at the end of the day, I'm looking at a list of people, and everybody on there is somebody who I'm good with hanging out with. More texts. Okay, cool. Look at that. We're working on getting some sponsorship for Crockett Cup, so that's what's going on. If you hear a weird vibration sound, it's that.
The roster's phenomenal, though. I think Adam and I have spoken many, many times. If you've seen any of the podcasts or anyone's seen any of the podcasts we've done about NWA, we've spoken lots about the women's division in NWA and how strong the women's division's always been in comparison to other companies out there. The spotlight on the women's division in NWA has been phenomenal, and I'd just like to thank you for that. Maybe not you personally, but
I would love to take credit for that. But Natalia Markova will always be one of the toughest human beings alive, regardless of if I wanted her to be or not. He takes a licking and keeps on ticking. We've got Max the Impaler, the non-binary nightmare. Max is growing up. There would be certain athletes that you'd see that were just monsters. Like I was always a Mike Awesome fan in ECW. And Max the Impaler is that same sense of just awe and fearfulness of being that individual is going to do something devastating to anybody at any given time, whether they think they're willing to let them or not.
Definitely. So we need to talk about it with your interviews. We've always had a laugh fee, whether it's Tyrus putting your hand, whether it's now more lately the sub. I love anything that you do with the Southern Six. It's just because I said one of these days, Fee, that I was going to do that. If you're hot, you're hot. If you're not, and walk off and leave you to wrap up the podcast one day. What are your favorite memories of interviewing guys on even on the podium or off the podium?
One of the things is growing up on wrestling, we talked about this before we started recording here. NWA 76 is going to be at the former ECW arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was the home of ECW for almost its entire run. And strangely enough, almost 30 years to the day of that is that Shane Douglas threw down the NWA World Heavyweight Championship after winning it in a tournament and declaring himself the ECW, the Extreme Champion. So it's really weird how history goes back there. The reason I bring up ECW is not only to plug an upcoming event. You can get your tickets now at NWALiveEvents.com. It's because Joey Styles was the voice of ECW. And Joey Styles was unlike anybody else in professional wrestling as far as broadcasting is concerned. He did interviews and also would do the one-man commentary team. If you watch back any of his interviews or anything, he reacted. Many people in wrestling, especially in the 90s, in the 2000s didn't react when they were in an interview situation. You were there almost to be a microphone stand, but Joey would have smart ass remarks. He'd have eye rolls. He'd make a comment and then immediately realize he made a mistake and would backtrack or be like, hey, oh, yeah. There was something about him that just, it clicked with me. And whenever I do interviews and watch them back, when I do voiceover work, when I do anything of the sort, I realized how much of a profound effect he had on me and that I accidentally subconsciously steal his stuff. So when I do interviews, it is a lot of that attitude. I am a witty, quick on my feet, kind of dickish human being at times. And that comes through when I'm interviewing people because that's real. It's who I am. I don't know how to be somebody else. And sometimes I'll make a comment and I'll look over and I'll see Thrillbilly, who has got, 8-9 inches on me and a lot of muscle and a lot of skill. And you can see it in my face. Hold on, let me try to backtrack. Somebody says something stupid at the podium. I also can't help but go like, it's that little thing. It's being a human being. It's being somebody interacting. My favorite moments at the podium are all of those. Stuff with the Southern Six is always funny because I have 3 people to play off of on that. Speaking of Nick Aldis, I used to have a lot of fun with at the podium. Except I was much more reserved with him because I also didn't want to have to deal with him being mad at me. Because he would not let things go with that. Sal Renaro is always a pleasure to have at the broadcast table, anywhere else, doing interviews with him. If somebody's got a personality that is easy to play off of, that makes my job 100 times easier. Some places you'll go, we'll have a discussion beforehand about what that interview is going to entail. For the most part, with me and the NWA talent, literally it's me introducing them and having no idea where we're going with something. I'll have a question in my head that I want to ask them, but then sometimes that never gets brought up. I recently had to do an interview with Vampiro. I don't think Vampiro talked during the interview, and it was maybe 2 minutes long. And yet somehow it worked. I watched it back and I was like, I feel like I'm getting a lot of information from this with no words. Also, man, what a way to get a paycheck, not to have to talk, and yet it's still doing your job.
I was going to say, Vampiro, I love his work. I like Vampiro, I mean, way back, WCW and whatnot as well. The promos that he's been doing recently with Alex Miz, the backstage stuff was so well done.
I agree with you 110%. When I was watching the episode back, an advanced copy of it before it aired, I just sent our producer and I said, more of that across the board. And then we had one with Kenzie like that, and that's going to be going forward. A new addition to kind of the way we present our product is there will be things like that.
Yeah, it definitely worked for me. I mean, Fee, you've seen this all. You've seen it from near enough the very start to now. That kind of bit there and that cold open when you go in, and it gives you the sort of narrative as to where the show's going.
You know where you're going. Absolutely. I love it. Like, I just think that's probably one of the best things that's happened with the new series and stuff. Just, well, in fact, it's not even this series because you've done it for a couple of series now, I think, seasons now.
I feel like it is reminiscent of the 10 Pounds of Gold docuseries that helped to reestablish the National Wrestling Alliance brand. And it has very much that vibe of just the narrative cuts with the theatrical quality of the footage and everything. Joe Galley, of course, does great voiceover for each one of those. Those cold opens are actually so well done that we decided we were always going to just put them online independently now. Nice. And if you just randomly were to see that, you'd be like, I want to know what that is.
They grab your attention.
It's like a gateway drug where it's a little taste, and then you're like, ooh, maybe I want a little bit more of this. Who knows?
It definitely was. I love it. We talk about it all. That's one of the first things that we've talked about. I think when we talked about Power was that. I mean, when I first watched it, was that cold sort of grab you in. It's going to be the main event. It's normally centers around the big focal point, whether it's the main event or whether it's just like a grudge match as part of Power. It just gets you in, and it takes your attention. You're like, right, I want to get to this. I want to watch it, even if you've never seen it. I mean, I'd never seen it before until and that was the point.
The beginning of each episode feels like it is the precursor to some massive main event that's about to happen at a pay-per-view. Yeah. That's the way I look at it. It's got that package. Like my girlfriend doesn't really watch wrestling, and so now that she's involved with me, she's constantly inundated with it. And so the other day, I was just like, "Can I show you the best video package that I remember ever seeing that just gets me fired up?" Maybe it's the age group, but I played for the Limp Bizkit My Way, Steve
Oh,
Austin versus The
yeah.
Rock WrestleMania
Yeah.
video, and she was like, "I don't even care," and that made me want to see them beat the hell out of each other. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Get you
See,
fired
that's
up!"
it. Job done.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what it does for me. Anyway, I don't know, but you could, well, but you've agreed anyway, so I know that you feel that way. So, but it is, as you said, Crockett Cup season. Not long to go to the Crockett Cup.
My favorite tournament, my favorite event that you guys do. I love tag team wrestling. I'm so sad not to be there, but it was so good to be there 2 years ago in Nashville. So good.
We will see what happens there. I know that coming up, we have the TV taping April 12th and April 13th in Tampa, Florida. Of course, a bit of a drive for you and for most of the audience that's probably listening to this, but that's okay because those episodes will be airing in future episodes of CW programming, and it will also be the build for the Crockett Cup. So we'll find out after about a week and a half from now, 2 weeks, what some of the tag teams are going to be, who will be in contention for the cup, what will be going on. We have the territory system now, which is smaller, independently ran NWA promotions with their talents there, so they should be making an appearance as well. We'll see what happens. The sky's the limit. 2024 is already shaping up to be huge things for National Wrestling Alliance, and I'm looking anxiously forward to not only having to take in the extra work of the things that are going on, because already, like I said, on this docket here, it's been a while since we had 7 shows already booked out on a map, planned for the year, venues already
Yeah.
locked in, already shaped. And they just keep on adding more and more. We're talking to Puerto Rico. We're discussing going here. We're discussing going there. So we'll see what happens.
Exciting times.
I'm really bad because sometimes I say things that I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that yet, but that's okay. Who cares?
But it is also a testament to the growth of what you guys have done, because the fact that there's an arena in, say, Puerto Rico that wants to host NWA. You mentioned other things. You toured Australia with the Smashing Pumpkins, and they put wrestling on in there. And it's funny because you guys done it, and then just this past, we'll talk a different company now, but just this past February, WWE done Elimination Chamber in Australia, but
Yeah,
NWA
Perth. It looked amazing. A bit of a different component there.
Yeah.
They were able to do it solely based
Yes.
on professional wrestling.
Absolutely.
We were in Australia piggybacking on the Smashing Pumpkins, who has international acclaim, and heck, I'm happy to take it any way we get it. It always is one of those things, as you said, to start off the show there, we are owned by Billy Corgan, the Smashing Pumpkins. We are owned by a rock star who thankfully is touring. And so financially, he makes sure this company happens on a given thing. We don't have corporations and billionaires backing us at any given time. So does it sometimes get a little, I don't know, get me stuck in my feels when I see something like you just said, where I'm like, look at the opulence of this event over here, WWE, AEW, and then you bring yourself back down to reality. You said, no, we're not able to do that because of the money and because of all that stuff. We're doing really good with what we have. We are essentially I don't know if the saying translates here, but there's a thing called like a mom and pop place where it's independently owned and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We're a pop place. We've got Billy. And he's got his children that he's had enough faith in, like Joe and I, to help make sure that these things keep on going. And I also said it before, and I'll say it again. I've been alive long enough to know that you never know what's going to happen. All it takes is one moment to change everything. And as a negative person, I usually think, well, for the worse, right? But inversely, it only takes one moment and one small action to change everything for the better. And who knows? There could be one domino that falls in the next 6 weeks that could change the entire aspect of everything in the National Wrestling Alliance for the better, to the point where I'd be like, oh, when I quit my real world job that had stability and everything to go full force into wrestling, maybe it was all for that. And who knows? We know we've got a reality show that's going to be coming out sooner rather than later. More news to come on that, and that should open up new eyes to the product. Because obviously, if you didn't care about wrestling, but all of a sudden you're watching some guys run around and be amusing, semi-idiotic at time, but also emotionally sound in a way that makes you connect to them as a human being, you might be like, I kind of want to know what this wrestling thing is that they're all seemingly wasting their time with.
Well, that brings me on to something I was going to ask actually, because obviously you've been in Australia, you went to Mexico. Obviously, primarily the people at the shows there were there to see the Smashing Pumpkins and see Billy. What was the response like from the fans who maybe hadn't watched wrestling or didn't really know what you were about? Like, do you think it's brought new fans to the brand?
I do feel like it brings new fans to the brand. It's like anything else. You know, we have the internet now and our social media that randomly will have an algorithm and it'll show you something on it that you might not have realized you would have ever found before. It's kind of like that being live and in person. You have the ability to then all of a sudden cross over people who would never have sought you out. Now all of a sudden they're going, oh, this is pretty entertaining. I remember walking with Sal Renaro, who's one of my closest friends in professional wrestling and in life.
I love Sal.
We were walking in Mexico, and then somebody goes, "Sal!" Just randomly, just somebody who was there. And Sal's like, "Hey!" And then people lined up and they started taking pictures with him. And we all had a moment where we sat back, and Sal goes, "I'm Mexico over." He's like, "People love me here," and it's that proof that I got to saw in person where people that never would have known he existed or cared or watched wrestling or done this or done that saw him and connected and found him entertaining. And then we're like, oh, so yes. And as we said earlier in this podcast, incremental growth.
Yeah.
You tell 5 people something, maybe they each tell 3 people. Now you've got this much, and then it spreads. You know, it's like a positive version of herpes. Once you catch it, it's not going anywhere, but you could definitely give it to other people.
Absolutely fantastic. Fee, was you going to carry on? Did you? Or was you
No, I'm just stuck on the herpes thing now.
And furthermore, it's one of those things where some people are like, well, maybe 50% of the population has to deal with this, but I'm ashamed that I'm in that population. So they try to hide their love of professional wrestling. But you can't get rid of it. Once you got that love of professional wrestling, you own it. You present it, good and bad, and you find the things that make you happy and you share it with people, because little moments here and there in pro wrestling, the entertaining things, the funny sound bites, the aggressive nature, the over-the-top athleticism, those are the things where every now and then you're like, that's why I'm a fan. That's why I got this.
I am 43 years deep on that.
Very recent.
See, you look good though. I'm 41, and I think I look infinitely older than both of you
I'm
combined.
the baby. I'm 39.
I just do both.
I've just lost track of what I was going to ask now. I had a question.
See, you're thinking about herpes now
see,
as well.
no, he's hitting the age now. That's the age where random forgetfulness occurs.
Well,
but it's all right.
It was. I got it back now. Slightly moving away just before we start wrapping up and we'll start promoting what the NWA are doing coming up on the NWA. It is WrestleMania season. Now, I would be wrong not to ask 2 questions. Now, I know you feel, you know, as you say, your signature live events are going to be taped for multiple episodes of Power. 2 questions. Number 1, what is your thoughts on WrestleMania going 2 nights? And 2, will Cody Rhodes finish his story at WrestleMania?
So let's go with the Cody thing first. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea where they're going. I speculate like everyone else, even though I have friends in the company that may have some information. The truth of the matter is that much like everyday life, you don't know what's going to happen. And either you're going to get what you want or you're not going to get what you want. But if what you want doesn't happen when you want it, it doesn't mean it's never going to happen. So my whole thing is, no matter what, if you're a fan of Cody, if you're a fan of Roman Reigns having this run, if you're a fan of any of this, just enjoy it for what it is. Be angry, be frustrated, be happy, enjoy whatever it takes. But just remember, tomorrow, a week from then, a month from then, these are going to keep on going on and on. So no matter if you get what you want today, tomorrow, or a year from now, just enjoy the ride. That's all I have to say about that. Just when be as annoyed as you want, if something does, this makes it sound like I know what's going to happen. Be as unhappy as you're going to be. But just remember, that unhappiness could be you just getting manipulated. So when something else happens, I'll give you a little background here. This is a perfect example. We're in Ring of Honor. There's a movie called The Wrestler that's about to be filmed. And Darren Aronofsky is the director, if I remember right. And he's at a show with Ring of Honor. He's there with Nicolas Cage, who's supposed to be the lead actor in it. And I am not a Nicolas Cage fan at the time. As I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate him, but I found him annoying when I was younger.
Yep.
And so me being an obnoxious 27-year-old pretty boy, I was like, I'm going to go try to talk to Nick Cage. So I'm up in the balcony and I'm behind them and I go, hey, gentlemen, if you have any questions about the show while it's going on, feel free to ask whatever it is. The Briscoe brothers have a thing with the Kings of Wrestling. They're feuding. Was it the Kings of Wrestling? It was either the Kings of Wrestling or Roderick Strong and Austin Aries. I think it was the Kings of Wrestling. Either way, the match starts. Everybody's ready for it. Everybody grabs a chair, starts hitting each other. Match gets thrown out immediately. The tag team championship match is thrown out. The crowd boos. They are pissed off. They immediately didn't get. And Nick Cage leans back and goes, do the fans not think they're going to get to see what they want to see tonight? And I said, well, you've had sex before. So having sex is great. You know what's going to happen. Boom, it happens. It's out of the way. Okay. But if there's some foreplay and you're kind of doing this and then something happens and there's interruption, then you come back to it. You go boom, 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 boom. Is to say, if instead of 5 minutes, it's now taken you 2 hours to get to that point where you're like, it just came hard. That was fantastic. You're going to enjoy it a lot more. And he's like, uh-huh. I was like, so in the long run, later on tonight, that match is going to happen. The fans don't know that yet. But when it does happen and they were like, oh, I didn't get to have sex tonight, and then they get to have great sex, they're going to go, oh my God, that was amazing.
Oh, I love it.
Jim Cornette said something very similar on a show once. I'm not going to go there, but he used an analogy like that, which was yeah.
But I mean, that's the truth. It's you never know what's going to happen, and sometimes getting what you think you want now later on will make it all the sweeter. As far as 2 nights go,
Yep.
Let's face it, they just ripped off New Japan with that recently because they saw financially that was a great way to getting 2 paydays in a row. Also, if you don't want to go for the money grabbing aspect of this, it also goes to, there are so many people that want to be a part of it as a fan, as an athlete on the roster, that there's only so much space. So splitting it into 2 nights gives everyone more opportunity to at least be a part of a historic event. And so that's great for the wrestlers. That's great for the fans if they can afford, because already, I mean, let's face it, WrestleMania is one of the most international experiences you can go to as far as professional wrestling goes. It's like World Cup. People come from all over the world just to be a part of that weekend. And that's why almost every wrestling company is involved in that weekend in some way, shape, or form in the area. We choose not to be because it's so easy to get lost in the shuffle.
Sure.
There's literally a million things going on. So trying to be a part of that is just, once upon a time when everybody got into it, fantastic. But in modern day, you find yourself, it's like a concert where you're like, okay, on that stage is a band I really like. And then on that stage is another band I really like. So I'm going to have to pick and choose what I want to do because I can't be there and there at the same time.
You can't see it all. You just
But
can't.
if you stay home, there's packages online for streaming services where they'll be like, these 5 shows from these 5 different companies will be running on this block.
Mhm.
So you could be like, I could just get that 2 hours after it happened and not know the results and just enjoy it as live and in person as I can from my corner. So the 2-day thing, I don't have a problem with it personally. It gives them more space for, again, fans and the athletes on their roster to be able to have matches and get a payday in their own right. It also gives them a longer range for, as Fee said, we have a 1-hour program. Now you have 9.5 hours story that you can tell over 2 days. Oh man, that's actually, I'm probably wrong. It's more like probably 11 hours now that I think about it, because the show's going to be 4.5 hours. There's going to be an hour pre-show, and then there's going to be a little bit here. Man, my weekend.
It's going to be interesting.
My weekend's going to be busy taking up and watching things because I got to stay in the know.
Yeah, exactly. Now, speaking of weekends, normally, Fee, we would let our guest do what they've got coming up. But I think as it's NWA Spotlight, we'll let Kyle do that at the end. So first thing first, what do you have coming?
So this weekend, Friday night, I am emceeing for Primary British Wrestling in Greenock Town Hall, which is one of our biggest venues, one of our biggest shows of the year. Absolutely buzzing for it. It's a beautiful, beautiful old venue with a nice big balcony. It's actually got 2 balconies. Sold it out the last time we were there in December, so I'm really looking forward to be back. I've not seen all the card yet. I'll not find out probably till Thursday night what the card is, but there's quite a few of the boys coming up from England from it. We've got our heavyweight championship match. I think we've got our tag team championships up for grabs as well. So that's Friday night. Talking of Mania, I am hosting the Hooked on Wrestling WrestleMania watch parties in Walkabout on Saturday night and Sunday night from 9 o'clock. So yeah, the parties start at 9 o'clock. I think the show doesn't start till midnight or 1 a.m. Finish 4 or 5, go home, go to bed, do it all again on Sunday. And then apparently I have to get up for my day job on Monday morning. So that'll be fun.
Good luck with that. What we've got, so well, actually tomorrow, and this tomorrow at time of recording, so this will go out tomorrow, but the interview that we're doing tomorrow will go out next
So it's
week.
Wednesday right now is what you're telling me.
It's
Is
Wednesday
technically,
right
if you're
now.
listening to this,
Right
it's
now
at
it's
least
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It's at least Wednesday. So Thursday, we're going to be doing another NWA Spotlight, this time with Brian Idol. And he's going to come in on.
He was texting me during this too.
There you
There
go.
you go.
So he's going to be coming on. We're going to talk about that. We've got our men's championship match coming up on the 21st of April. Yes, the podcast has a legitimate title in wrestling for those of you that don't know. The Hitting the Turnbuckle Men's Championship will be defended April 21st at Ignite Wrestling Pro Full Throttle, where our champion Smashing Mike will be going 1-on-1 with the Brilliance James Ellis. He's looking to take the championship back to Brilliance Country, or WOWS, for those of you that don't know what Brilliance Country is. And then in July, we're putting on our own show, or sponsoring our own show again. So we're doing Buckle Up 2024. Fee, I understand you'll be hopefully gracing us with your presence at that show. Can't announce nothing for that other than if you come to the show in April, Ignite, go to Eventbrite Ignite Wrestling, you will see the #1 contendership for the Turnbuckle Championship for the match in July. And that will be Mark True, Corey McRae, or Jay Joshua from WOWS again, funnily enough. And of course, as I said, Brian Idol tomorrow. But as it's NWA Spotlight, Carl, you've already mentioned a lot of stuff going on NWA wise. Why don't you just enlighten everybody? And even though you have said it already, where can they watch it?
Fantastic. Well, we'll just run this down. If you want to see the NWA live and in person, it's going to be a bit of a drive, a bit of a flight, a bit of a boat ride, but that's okay because we want to see you there. Coming up April 12th and April 13th, we're going to be in Tampa, Florida at WEDU Television Studios for power tapings, 2 days. Be a part of the live studio audience. It is a unique experience that you should be a part of. May 3rd, NWA Chicago, one of our territories, will be having a show. It is Chicago Fire. That's going to be coming at you from Studio One in Highland Park, Illinois. Then May 18th, NWA Crockett Cup 2024, coming from the OC in Dallas, Texas. Again, tickets for all these events are at NWALiveEvents.com. You can go there right now. June 22nd and July 20th, NWA Exodus Pro Midwest will be having shows. EC3's promotion. He is there, the NWA World's Champion. He is having a focus on up-and-coming talent while also teaching him that maybe EC3 is a man that you don't want to mess with when it comes to being a champion. And then August 31st, it was just announced, literally, if you're watching this on Wednesday, it was announced yesterday. Today at recording time, this gets very convoluted there, ladies and gentlemen. We have the 2300 Arena, former ECW Arena, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, NWA 76 years of the National Wrestling Alliance. The culmination, we just talked about WrestleMania. It is our WrestleMania. Be a part of the action. And then if you want to know what's going on, we got a late in the year show there as well. December 14th, Looks That Kill, Dothan, Alabama. Otherwise, we are on the CW network. Go to CWTV.com. Stream it anywhere that you're capable of doing so. If you need a VPN because you're international viewers, I am sorry. My utmost apologies. Them's is the ropes when you deal with a corporation. I hope they have an answer because then I don't have to figure out one myself. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the NWA Spotlight. I am Kyle Davis, one of the many voices of the National Wrestling Alliance, and I want to thank you for tuning in, being a part of it, and never lose that fandom because we need you. Otherwise, we're just talking to ourselves and punching each other in the head for nothing. That's just weird. If you need to follow me on social media, it is Kyle Davis, ATL. Those last 3 initials. That's because I used to live in a place called Atlanta, Georgia. So never tie your social media to a location. You're going to end up moving. Anyway, that's all I've got. NationalWrestlingAlliance.com. Go on there. Merchandise, events, anything you want. Buy a t-shirt. Danny Deals will be happy.
Exactly that. And lastly, before we go, the GoFundMe is still available for Silas Mason, who unfortunately, as we all know, had a house burnt down. $16,368 at time of recording. You can still do that if you go to the GoFundMe. Just type in Silas Mason GoFundMe on your internet, and you'll be able to donate to it. Please do. We have, and so please make sure that you do. He'll be very grateful for that. I'm sure, as will the Silas.
You just got a payday by doing a Moon Pies commercial. I don't know if you guys have Moon Pies there, but
I've
it's a snack
seen
treat.
that advert. It's superb. Him and Kazana. Hello, AJ. Ripping
I saw
the
that, yes.
Kazana brand. Yeah, that
And
advert. Glorious.
the commentary team on that commercial too popped me because, as they said, Silas Mason is the sun, AJ Kazana is the moon, and at one point in time he goes, "The sun doesn't even have a snack cake." Popped me.
Exactly that. But guys, thank you all for watching. As Carl said, he has been the voice of NWA Kyle Davis. She has been the wonderful Fiona Lochran, and I have been your host, Adam Cousins. And until next time, everybody, don't forget to check out NWA on the CW app. Good night. God bless. Take care.